Okay. Patch notes day. Fee abilities that target other cards can now be used without the need to re-click the card with fee for each use. Oh boy. Yeah, good. This was really frustrating going back and forth, like from Northern Realms to Syndicate. Or just like order decks to fee decks. Patch should be like in 5 hours. That sounds right. Improved first time user experience. What does this mean? Like tutorial updates? They didn't mention this at all in the dev video, right? Syndicate buffed? Wait, what? Did I miss something? Didn't they murder Syndicate? And progression. I mean, is this all it is? Bounty is dead? I don't know about Bounty being dead. The Bounty bronzes are still some of the most efficient bronzes in the game. Just because you can't do the unitless thing doesn't mean you're not still getting great value on your cards. That's why everyone thinks Syndicate will be so bad. They had one thing going on, and that one thing got nerfed a bit. Casual rank 7. Yeah, but why have 2 bullet points if this is the only thing that they're doing? This isn't really a first-time user experience thing either. How long does it take to get to rank 7? Best Syndicate deck didn't even play Bounty? What are you calling the best Syndicate deck? The Crime Pile? Seductress DJ? You have a link to a list for that? That deck didn't play Slander? Played 2 Slander and Caleb? I mean, that's Bounty, right? He didn't play Witch Hunters. There's a change make for those cards, though. Not a lot. Not a lot. It just means you can't go like Slander, or like Slander Caleb, and then have one payoff for your bounties. Do what song's playing in the background? I don't have an easy way of doing that. I don't have that tied into YouTube. Who can stream snipe more effectively? That's not relevant. Is this going to be released with the patch, or is it going to be a couple days after? Can I install an extension now? Gwent. No. Wonder when that'll go live. How long till the patch? Probably like 5 hours. Rework 14 cards. Yeah, we'll get into more of this later. Sure. Twitch thing we need to like the stream sniping being way over. That's not relevant, guys. The stream sniping doesn't matter. If people are gonna stream snipe, that's already a huge advantage. There being an overlay to make it slightly more better. Slightly better for them doesn't actually matter. They don't need to see your deck to know what cards you have in your hand. If you order deploy cards, it'll provide the player with better visual feedback upon card selection before use confirmation. Oh, this is what they said in the video, right? So when you click on an order card, it like hovers in the air for a while. So you know what effect you're using, because the arrow coming out of the card wasn't enough information. I'm interested to see what this looks like, because we didn't see any gameplay video, right? It's not something you see as a helpful thing. For viewers, you don't see how the Twitch extension is a huge boon. Especially for new viewers. For the streamer? Well, it's not for the streamer, it's for the viewer. The streamer doesn't care. Yeah, I had seen this before. I was just confused as to why you said it didn't play Bounty, because every list that I'd seen played Slanders. Added a variety of interactions to the game boards. We Hearthstone now, boys. Added dedicated audio on use effects to each leader ability. Didn't we already have this? Wait, what? Am I seeing these for the first time? No. Some of them I am. There was a lot of discussion going on in the Rankstar Discord. But we didn't talk about everything. Means for when you can choose whatever leader you want. Oh, okay, so it's not the leader making sound anymore. Didn't they? I guess maybe not every ability had one. Leader change might be confusing about the video. Yeah. Added dedicated icons. We saw that. Leader ability icons, and I'll be shown in the redraw screen. God, I hate listening to music on YouTube. She's been added. Wait a second. Okay, added additional gamepad vibration. Navigating menus. Console players. Doing pretty good, DJ players. An option has been added in settings to set player names to always collapse or expand during a match. Sure. Why did they make this feature? Did they ever explain what they needed this for? Or what this was trying to solve? Like, the meme is that it's anti-sniping, but that's such a meme. Okay, let's jump into the real meat of everything. So, neutral cards. Dandelion Poet provision cost changed from 14 to 12. We've talked about this card a lot, right? Like in previous patch notes. Seems like every patch, Poet comes up at some point in the discussion, even though it remains unchanged. Still pretty much unplayable. Is it? So, okay, when Homecoming first launched, and provisions were like 1-to-1 with power, the average power of a card in your deck was like roughly 6.5. So in round 3, well, in the average case where your deck is full of average cards, your Poet was still trash. It was playing for as like a 10.5 for 14, and it got worse as the game went on and you used mulligans to find your good cards. Now, though, like the floor of a card is like 6 points, right? Even 4s are playing for 6. There's some cards that directly play for worse value, but the synergy is supposedly going to make up for it. So what's the average value of a card in your deck now? It's got to be closer to like 8, right? Just because of all the buffs bronzes gotten over time? And if the average value of a card in your deck is 8, so this is playing as a 12 for 12 neutral? Isn't that really good? Average value of a card in your deck round 3 is like 6? Is it that low? There's no way it's 6, because 6 is the minimum. Compare it to Roach. Roach isn't around 3 play. It's not really fair. You can save the points from Poet. You can't save the points from Roaches easily. Here's the cards you mulligan in round 3. A lot of them are conditional. I mean, it probably depends on what deck you're playing. I'm thinking Poet in like a Gurney deck or something, where you're getting additional Thrive value. All your cards do roughly the same thing and just playing for good points. Or even like a Skellige deck that just needs top end. I don't think Skellige's cards are all that situational, are they? No matter what you're drawing, if you're playing Poet early, you should be getting good rate. Granted, I don't really know what the Skellige buffs have been, whether they have good golds now. I don't think you can just write it off as unplayable anymore. I don't know for sure whether it'll find a home, but it's not just straight trash anymore. You don't have to play the card you draw. Well, you don't have to play it immediately, but you have to play it eventually. The value of the card is still the 4 body plus whatever you draw. Well, plus new Yen spell is actually good. I think the new Yen spell might be the most overrated card of the patch. You guys are looking way too close at the ceiling of like stealing an oak. When a lot of the time, cards that you're going to steal with Yen aren't big on their... Cards that you want to actually play from their side of the board aren't tall themselves. So you're not getting value out of the removal. So like if you try to steal a Geralt, just as an example, with Yen plus Poet, you're using your Yen to get 3 points just to play Geralt off your Poet. The ideal case of getting both removal value and value on the card just won't happen all that often. Or just cheaper Heatwave. It was already like a cheaper Heatwave when you played it in round 3. Does Poet play any card? Yeah. You draw a card and then you can play any card from your hand. So if you draw something situational, you still get to set up for that situation. It's like the criticism people had about Create before, where even if you created something that might be good later on in the round, because of the time you played your Create card, you couldn't get value out of it. Poet doesn't really have that same issue. Can you play Joachim more easily with Calvé? Do you really want to play a 4-point Yennefer's Invocation to replay Joachim? My camera's shaking? Is it? Oh. Yeah, okay. The chair's a little closer to the desk, so whenever I move my leg, my desk shakes a bit. Steal a buffed unit to stay buffed? No. It goes back to base power. So like if you're trying to use Yennefer's Invocation for tall removal and something they buff, you're not getting great value on the steal either. What about Drought steal? I mean, these are all like some situations that'll come up occasionally that are great, but you can't build around that. Like, you're not putting Poet in your deck to play towards that. You're not putting Joachim in your deck to play towards that. It doesn't happen often enough. That's my overall opinion of this patch. Well, I am on the very first gameplay change. So far, I don't really like this card being pushed, just as a general opinion, but it's still probably... I don't know. Can the steal buffed Skags and Joachim it out? Yeah. I think it's unhealthy. I just don't see it as a very interesting card. If it sees play, it's like the same problem Poet had in beta, right? Like, you just play it in any deck that has good value on its bronzes, because it just lets you play a bronze with points. It's not the type of card that should be at neutral. It's a little too generic. Crothy Heatwave provision cost changed from 12 to 10. They keep pushing this card. It's still bad, right? If no one played Yennefer's Invocation in Nilfgaard, is anyone going to want Karathi Heatwave at neutral? This card started out as like 14 provisions, right? He buffed it like 3 times. banish value? Banish value is pretty similar to top of deck value. Squayatel occasionally plays dragon, and you'll see some immune Gabors. Did you play an 8 for 10? It's a dragon for Harmony. It's not really an 8 for 10. Does the best T-decks exist? Well, they might not now, but they definitely could going forward. Okay, Musicians of Blaviken. Ability change to deploy, gain shield, doomed, resilience, or poison. So it lost something for doomed. Lost immune. None of these things ever matter except for resilience, right? I guess occasionally... No, I mean, realistically, resilience is the only thing that ever matters. They also buffed its power. So what's the point of Musicians? Why does this card exist? It gets doomed, another nerf to Bearmaster. Memes, filler. It's a playable 6 for 6. Make it 4 for 4 so every deck can play it. So, like, it's bad, right? It's definitely not good. 1/4 resilience just isn't reliable enough. There's no reason... No good reason to play a bunch of beasts in a deck anymore. They're just the one payoff. 6 for 6, no drawback? Yeah, but a 6 for 6 isn't good. Invocation works no assimilate? Yeah, because the card wasn't from your starting deck. Sangreal provision cost changed from 7 to 6. That's cool for, like, shield and R. I don't know how much that really matters. Does anything care other than, like, Kalenth combos? Six-tank Barb seems like impossible to kill. Yeah, Six-tank Barb, I think, is the biggest change in monsters. There's, like, so many subtle things that this does. Scorch provision costs changed from... Why? Why would they... Okay. Fran change. Fran didn't play Scorch anyway. It doesn't matter. This is like... This is a Cintron Lion buff. This is a Miaman buff. Honestly miss seeing Scorch. It was everywhere in beta. Scorch was a very different card in beta. Scorch was a much more interactable card in beta. It's way too easy to do multiple things in one turn in Homecoming Gwent. Like, that doesn't change much. It's just one of those, like, why did you do this type things. What are you hoping comes of this? Cards have much lower base power. Yeah, it's easier to line things up. Because the numbers are all closer together. What was Scorch in beta? It was the same card, but you couldn't do two things in one turn. There were no leaders that you could use the same turn you played a card. There was no ping your opponent's units with Ithne and play Scorch at the same time. It was, you took a turn to line things up, and then your opponent had a turn to desync it, and then you played Scorch. TK power change. Whoa! A 2-point buff to TK? God, I hate this card so much. Can they make it so that it only shows you specials from your own deck? Playing this card against Syndicate is one of the worst experiences you will ever have. Syndicate lost Swindle. That's true. So what, if you play... I mean, even then. Even if you just play one special in your deck. If your opponent's playing... I guess 3. It would be a roll. But realistically, you want to play multiple specials so your Triss can do multiple things. It's just like... I don't know. It's like high impact Vigor rolls on an expensive card. It's a change that I wish they made back in beta. And Triss still exists a year and a half later in the same form. I think Triss is 11. Yeah, 11. DJ, because he's free and granular Guthrin if you play Bounty. I don't know, I feel like I'd rather just play King of Beggars than DJ. Not being able to store the points kind of defeats the point. You don't really want to be playing Crimes in round 3, aside from maybe a Slander or 2. So like King of Beggars is 6 in round 3, plus you get the tribute reduction, which is relevant in round 3 as well. Whereas DJ is probably just 6 points in round 3. Front-loaded points are still points. Yeah, but the tribute reduction is points too. Why does Igor need to be tribute? The cooldown's fine. Yeah, I wouldn't completely count him out, but I think it's less likely that he's good than King of Beggars is good. Or Guthrin or Hemmelfart, depending on what you're trying to do. Horson. They're all just so similar. I don't know. Like, they solved the DJ being miles better than the other Syndicate leaders. But the issue of the Syndicate leaders all still being really similar cards is kind of still there. Hey, Synergy God. Thanks for the raid, dude. Welcome, welcome. Still play 2 Swindle and each shot. Are you still playing Swindle? Yeah, like, when Syndicate first came out, the Adzikov deck that was playing Fizztech was pretty impressive for a while. Now it's only giving you 3 coins. Now it's playing for reasonable value. I don't think non-portal decks play Fizztech. No, probably not. But pretty sure a lot of Syndicate's gonna be Portal now. It's either you play Portal or you play Witch Hunters. Or you're King of Beggars. And have Fence. Turn is significantly worse now because you don't want too many bounty givers. They're still really efficient. I don't know, there's a lot of payoffs for the bounty too. So you still have 2 Executioners, you have Ewald, you have Graydon, you have potentially more else if you need another payoff. And there's only 5 cards that give bounty. I think Caleb's an easier cut than Witch Hunter is. Caleb's by far the least efficient bounty giver. This deck is pretty good if you play Furco, yeah. Villain, Trenton, Mirth, power changed from 5 to 6. It doesn't die anymore. 5 to 6 is like the biggest breakpoint, right? Hey, Kirby. Gifting the sub to Shinmiri. Thank you. Where am I in terms of reading the patch notes? I've looked over most of them, but we're just getting to the end of the neutrals now. As far as reading them on stream goes. So I have kind of the context of what these changes are coming with. But I haven't thought too deeply about it. Roping the patch notes? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Nothing else to do. I'm not gonna play Gwent before the patch drops. That sounds awful. Gotta kill a 6. Parasite. Assassination on an empty board, which should never happen. Doing pretty good ice. Yeah, 6 is not easy to kill. It's just how often is this going to be getting value? When Bork is bad, you play it last and it doesn't go off. But then you're playing a 6 for 11. But when it's good... When it's good... Assassination plus Fire Scorpion? Fire Scorpion got a significant nerf though, didn't it? Didn't all the ping engines go down to 3? Yeah. Hours from now? I think it's like 5 hours from now. Unless it... The last patch is 5 hours from now. Or 4.5 hours from now. Like I'm doing a 12-hour stream. No, I might go like an hour over my normal time. No intention of going crazy. Helga's still good though. Maybe? Were people cutting Helga already? This meta, you play Portal to kill one Fire Scorpion, you shield the second one. Maybe? Depends how much the thinning matters for you. I don't know, 4 to 3 is such a huge nerf. It's not that hard to like kill one and have a lock for a second one or something like that. It was just dealing 4 to one thing, and then still having an answer to the next one, whether they shielded or not, was hard. If anything, decks were adding Helga. It was a complete meme to cut it. Was it? I thought like as the season was going on, there were fewer and fewer Helgas. Whereas at the beginning of the patch, there were a ton of them. I agree it was probably a meme to cut it. Every time I played against the card, I was miserable, but... I definitely saw fewer as the patch went on. Hey, Gene Lucas. Good Helga for bribery. Aren't those very different slots? I don't know, man. I didn't play this season. Whatever. I'll defer to people who actually played this season. Detlef. Ability changed to Order. Give an enemy unit bleeding for 3 turns. Charge 3. When all charges are used to spawn Ekimara on a random allied row. This is cool with Oriana. This is cool with Bruxa. So the ideal pattern for this is your opponent plays 3 units, 4 units. You Detlef them all, play Oriana. Oriana grows by 3 to 4 a turn for at least 3 turns. And because of this vampire, you're guaranteed to always have the at least 1 turn of bleed proc on your Oriana. The issue becomes a lot of the points that you're getting off this are in bleeding, and disrupting bleeding isn't that hard. Skellige can damage their own units to make you lose value on the bleed. Monsters can consume their units. Skoya can't do a ton, NR can't do a ton. Syndicate can't do a ton. But Syndicate doesn't play that many units. So getting to the point where you can do the combo against Syndicate takes longer. Stead's Triad's Caress now. What does that do again? It just boosts 3 up front, right? Yeah, I guess we're playing Valve. Gives you a 3rd target if you need it. Syndicate has no proactive crimes now. That's true. I don't know, depending on how valuable going unitless is, I could definitely still see playing Eavesdrop. It depends how valuable not playing units for a couple turns is. Call the Forest is busted now. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Five for 6 is so bad? I mean, it's not really a 5 for 6, even when you play it in round 3, right? Because ideally you're improving the quality of your hand. Plus it's in coins, and the coins are often slightly more than a point because of stuff like Sea Jackal. If Boat is still being played, Boat breaks the symmetry too. Grant for 1p in power. Didn't they buff the provision? It's a 9 instead of a 10? Yeah. So it lost the power, but got the provision back. Imagine not playing Portal and Syndicate. I mean, maybe. No one played Eavesdrop in the beginning because everyone had the bad card. Suddenly, whole month is best played card. What? You mean in the first season? Last season was the most played because it got buffed by a point. I still feel the card was like kind of overrated by the end of the first season where it was legal. Or was a card. It's not that big. I mean, changing a round 1 card from 5 provisions to 6 provisions is a pretty big nerf. Because you don't want to play your expensive cards early. Cultivate Invocation looks so overrated. Yeah, we briefly talked about that already. Buy a power, change from 3. Isn't this a Thrive unit? How many times are they going to buff this while it still remains unplayable? I guess the first question, this is still unplayable, right? It's a 4 for 6 Marilorn with Thrive. Yes, it is still unplayable. Cool. Moving on. I think Goodbye is finally playable-ish. Really? Marilorn's like a sketchy 2-of in Death Wish. And Death Wish isn't exactly good at proccing Thrive. You don't usually want it in your hand round 3. Because you're not usually trying to play more than 0 to 1 Bronze Death Wishes in round 3. With the bar buff? Yeah, the bar buff is nuts. This is huge. If it isn't exactly good, like, at all. Yeah. And that's part of the issue. Yeah, this is the new Tool album. You just have a playlist on YouTube playing. I think AQ is going to make a comeback this month. I could see it. I could definitely see it. The ping engine's getting nerfed. It's huge for AQ. There's probably going to be fewer Draugs. The problem with AQ wasn't really a power level problem. It was just a metagame problem. And a lot of the things that were preying on it in the metagame aren't there anymore. 5's Thrive procs once the card is absolutely insane. If Abaya gets to target a Death Wish unit, and the Thrive procs once the card's great. Was also a power level problem. I mean, in the context of like full test, sure. I don't think it was a power level problem in relation to most things. It's full test tuned down. I don't think it's a power level problem anymore. Shiro's back. Not great for AQ. Wait, why does AQ care about Shiro? Oh, so, Barbagazi. Much like going to 6 makes Villain's Drettenworth roughly unkillable, going to 6 makes Barbagazi roughly unkillable as well. And considering this is a very low commitment play that can transition into something huge, this is crazy for round 2 bleeds. So you can lead on Barbagazi in round 2. And if they don't spend either some big removal to kill it or lock it, then you can follow up with Corinthier into Detlaf. And you've played 22 for 2 cards and 14 provisions. And can there either continue pushing from there or make your opponent play multiple cards and you steal card advantage. No longer gets muzzled, no longer gets thundered, no longer gets serrated for multiple reasons. Like, what are the threats that answer Barbagazi? It's like Parasite, which trades even. So you still have a pass after that. Full-tested Selkirk. Locks don't give your opponent a pass. Bloody Baron. So after Baron, you still have 12 points in play. The 2 drones, a 5-point Detlaf, and the Barbagazi. Barbagazi's a 6 now. 13 points in play. What's taking the pass from you when you lead on Barbagazi in round 2? Organic Tutor into Parasite? Letho? Leaders? Sure, so like Croc into Muzzle. Is he a playable card now? I don't think so. People didn't play Yen's Invocation. And Invocation was cheaper. Plus Muzzle is a great trade for a bronze. Well, not if you're losing card advantage in round 2 because of it. I'm mostly looking at this card in the context of being a threat that you play in round 2 that's low commitment. It's like you can play it on 8 too, and you're threatening 22, even if your opponent kills it. But you could already do that, right? It doesn't really matter too much there. It's just how safe it is to play on 7 and lower cards. Poe could. No, we're talking about Poe for like 15 minutes. I don't know. I could see it. I think you probably need some kind of synergy to like thrive, but depending on how good the new Skellige golds are, it could give Skellige another top end gold. Going 30 minutes a card. It's not that slow. Come on. But yeah, assuming the vampire buff doesn't really work out, this feels like the biggest change in monsters. It's so much more than 1 point. Even in round 3, like the way that you would force a Detlaf through a muzzle, you had to like awkwardly play your Karen. So like play a Karen, consume something so the Karen goes above 5, and leave 2 charges on it. Right now, it's just play Barbagazi. Cull Talos is pretty big too. Yeah, Cull Talos is the second coming of Miaman buffs. I don't know, does Gwent have a worse macro archetype than Protect the King? Protect the Fortress, whatever you want to call it. It's like the only macro archetype that's like kind of viable and loses to a single card. What is that? Like the old Ilmarith Sabbath decks, the Cull Talos decks, where you just buff a Cull Talos really big and hope your opponent can't kill it. If your opponent has an answer to your thing, you just lose. But if they don't, you probably win. Cull Talos gonna be sad versus AQ. Yeah. Yeah, there's a few ways to answer it. You can move it. You can use tile removal, you can lock it. You need to be 8, not to target like Geralts and stuff. I mean, I don't think you're putting Cull Talos in a deck where you're not boosting him. The whole point is that you consolidate your board into 1 or 2 units, and those 1 or 2 units are stronger than any 2 units your opponent can play. Also bad versus... Oh yeah, bad versus a whole swath of cards. I don't think it's very good, but it's one of those decks that... when you queue into it, it's just, do you have the answer? You just put Catalis in the Monsters decks now? Don't Monsters decks tend to go pretty wide? Like, Gurney can't really play it. Raucous Queen certainly can't play it. Are there other Monsters decks? Why can't AQ play it? The Artifact one can, I suppose. But generally, AQ goes pretty wide. Sure, maybe what I'm thinking of is like a Woodland deck is actually an AQ deck instead. Points positive with Fran. Oh, that's cute. Okay, you might have sold me there. Even when it's bad, it's good. Because the floor on it is just a 9 for 11, which is fine. Huh. Okay, this buff's a lot more spooky then. What do you play versus me? I'm gonna self-destructs. Just use an Arrakis charge. You can silence it and not turn it against you. Well, you can just play it ranged if you really don't want it to go off. Though AQ doesn't really care, right? Yeah, it's like when buffing this card, what's the best thing that can come into the game when you buff this card? What does this add to the game? Why do you want Cull Talos to be good? It just encourages the worst types of decks, right? Memes? Well, it's already a meme when it's bad. You don't need to buff memes to make them memes. Cull Talos meme decks are bad, then you think it's a fine buff. I don't know. We'll see. It's particularly relevant how good the decks are. Yeah, like, Sabbath sucked, but it was still miserable on ladder. There are Ferrixal Color decks. There were fair Sabbath decks, too. It's just like, what did fair Sabbath mean? It meant sometimes that deck would just go off on you. They would just play Sabbath, you didn't have the answer, they Mandrake it and won the round. Like, is it good gameplay in the fair Sabbath, in the fair Cull Talos decks either? So, like, okay, you play Cull Talos. It's a 9. You can... I guess every deck can damage it. So it's pretty much never the situation's going to come up where you play Cull Talos, and your opponent can't either damage it or play something taller than the Cull Talos, right? There's no deck that can't get around that, the 9-power wall. Cull Talos on red coin is pretty dumb. It's just so big. Does this change mean can no longer answer shield with Cull Talos? Well, now it's a 12 instead of a 9. Not sure how much that matters. Air deck could be bad, so it's mostly a buff to Queen. Yeah. What about the... There were like AQ just like parasiting up the Cull Talos. So you go turn 1 Cull Talos on either round 2 or on red coin. Your opponent doesn't have movement or a lock, they're probably not killing it. They'll deal like 3 to it or whatever, and then you parasite it up to 12. And then pass. Or do something else before passing. When they deal 3 to it, it's going to eat one of their units. Then you played a not unit card. It's going to eat another unit. Does this just trivially play for like 15 points? If they don't have a lock or movement? Or tall removal? When Cull Talos kills one of your tokens, you just get the token back. What a Q card doesn't? They usually require some kind of setup. Plus, this one threatens to just not let your opponent play, right? If they don't have enough damage effects, they can't play a unit. Every unit they play just dies. So on blue coin, you play Cull Talos, you tack it, you parasite it. They don't have tall removal, movement, or a lock. What do? You're not building around it. You just played a parasite. Yeah, they just pass. You just win the round as AQ. If you're on blue and TA, it'll just kill. You don't have to do it on turn 1. But sure. Or Thunderbolt Potion. I mean, you could even just like play a Barbagazi or something, and they're stuck on 2 units. I don't know, it just seems really not committal to put a Cull Talos in your deck. When I just thought this was like build around Arid Index, it was kind of whatever. Because at least those are bad. But if AQ could just splash this in. Yeah. It's a 9 for 11 that sometimes just wins you the game. Exactly. Would it be in Gurney? I don't see it working in Gurney. You go a little too wide. It's really clunky in round 1. I don't know, we'll see. I went into this thinking this was kind of just a meme change and it wasn't a big deal, but the more I think about it, the less and less I like it. Or at least the scarier it seems. Pretty expensive to run? Not really, because it's efficient, right? Worst case, you're playing a 9 for 11, and you're usually not going to be playing a 9 for 11. No, I'm pretty sure the all-in renew Arid Index are still trash. People will try them, they'll be frustrating to queue into. But I don't think this buff gives them a positive win rate. The more you build around Cull Talos, the more you hit your deck. Yeah, but that's the thing, you don't have to build around it for it to be good. Renew and Blue Dreams get provision buffs now that Francesca is ST only. Why? No one played this card with Francesca anyway. The relevant neutral cards for Francesca are just like Lacerate and Muzzle, right? They're the only ones people actually use. Kind of Royal Decree, but not really, because Stokoetel got their own Royal Decree. And Royal Decree is pretty rare anyway. It should be like 4 hours from now? 4 to 5. Lawrence will use Francesca for tons of things. Sure. But you don't need to buffer nerf cards because people play Francesca for tons of things at lower ranks. At that level, the provision costs don't really matter. People just do whatever. That's the exact situation that Sabbath had, Moose. If Sabbath got answered, the game ended. But if it doesn't, it at least wins you the round, right? It depends how strong Cull Talos ends up being when it doesn't go answered, if you don't have to commit a lot in your deck to making it good. If just like Parasite Cull Talos is hard to deal with from red coin, then I think it's a huge problem. That's the thing, I'm not sure how good Cull Talos is at ending games. I'd have to play with it more. Will it be auto-included 11? I don't know. At 10, probably. I don't know about 11. At 12, I think it starts being a consideration for some decks. It seems a little too early to say where there's going to be locks and tar removal everywhere when we don't know what the metagame looks like yet. I could see that being true, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. First deck I'll try to make vampires. An AQ, you don't really want to renew an AQ. Play it in 2 rounds of some matchups. Yeah, I think it's going to be tough to fit renew if you're trying to fit Cull Talos, but I haven't tried to fit everything. I'd have to think more about that. No way a Cull Talos deck can win 2 rounds. Well, we're not talking about a Cull Talos deck. And that's the thing, though. I could see AQ just playing like a Parasite and some artifacts. And that being enough for Cull Talos to be worth enough points that it's game ending. Okay, Tool album's over. That was a cool album. Maybe you move for an AQ. I don't know, I have to think about that more. Patch is not live yet now. One more way for AQ to win round 3 when opponent doesn't push them at all earlier. I also see it as a way to win round 1, though, and I think that's where we differ here. I don't think it's that hard to imagine a world where Cull Talos into Parasite can win round 1 from red pretty easily. Round 1, you kind of need units. If your opponent can't get over a big Cull Talos, do you? Okay, so we skipped over a few cards to get to Cull Talos. Where were we? We did the Barbagazi, we did not look at Bruxa. Thrive, deploy, even immune and bleeding for 2 turns. It's a 3 now too, right? Was it already a 3? Might have already been a 3. Yeah, we might be thinking of different decks. I'm not even totally sure what deck I'm thinking of either. I just have like a small package in mind. Brooks is now cheaper Wyvern. It's not direct removal, but yeah. Brooks just seems sweet. Just generically sweet. Crimson Curse provision cost changed from 11 to 9. So this is obviously a pretty big buff, especially with the vampires getting better too. It's still such an awkward card. Especially now that Detlef's only making 1 vampire instead of potentially 3. The issue of just not getting units to stick for long enough that Crimson Curse just isn't a playable card, and having to discard it just comes up so much every time I've played Crimson Curse. Can't believe they didn't delete Usurper. I don't know why anything CDPR has done since Homecoming would have led you to believe that they were considering deleting Usurper. Geography, their kind of card, the Crimson Curse expansion is 0 play. It's just such an awkward card. Gives a vampire consume hybrid that can play Crimson Curse kind of because people don't run much muzzle. Yeah, it's such a weird card to evaluate because the floor is literally discarding the card, and the ceiling is kind of nuts for its revision cost. There aren't many cards like that. It's like Scorch, Crimson Curse. And that's kind of it as far as these expensive payoffs go. Even Igni at least plays for 2 points. But receives negative points? No, because you can discard it. It's never negative points to discard. Or passive it in your hand. Wait, do they have weather can be negative? Sure. I mean, by that logic, anything can be negative points, because things can trade up to it, right? Like, is it negative points when your Griffin gets Geralted? Or, not when your Griffin gets Geralted, that's not really fair. When your Vanilla 8 gets Geralted, because your opponent traded up 3 points with it. Geralt kills it. Oh, whatever. You know what I mean. Leo. Desire long run 3s all have more and better engines than Curse? I don't know what. Curse is effectively 3 points per turn with no base that ticks for like 5 to 6 turns. It's a good long round card when it works. It's just, it doesn't always work. And once you start playing vampires, your opponent kind of knows what's up and can start playing around it. Crimson Curse is organic. You can get it with the Crone. They changed that 2 or 3 patches ago. CC beat Fran Waters in a long round 3? No, but you're talking about one of the best long round decks in the game, if not the best long round deck in the game. I've had games where like CC's competed with Meave. But yeah, it's tough to beat 4 points per turn with 16 of them front loaded. Like the 2 waters themselves are more points than the Curse already. And honestly, one of the better ways to play Crimson Curse, in my experience, has been to play it in round 2. Like, you win round 1, play Crimson Curse while bleeding, and then you pass with, like, 2 turns left on the Crimson Curse, and your opponent still has to deal with it ticking. You can't really do that with Waters, because you have to keep playing cards to make your engines good. Will DJC play now? I don't know. Probably. He's not clearly better than the other leaders like he was previously. Gale ability changed to deploy melee, damage enemy unit by 1. If it's bleeding, deal 3 instead. Death blow, boost self by destroyed unit's base power. And this is what, a 4 for 8? So you put... Let's say you bleed 3 of 5. The bleed ticks twice. It goes to 3. You play Gale. You deal 3, but you lose 1 from the bleeding, so it's sort of like dealing 2. Gale becomes a 9 that dealt 2, so you get 11 for 8. Is it 7? It is 7. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I'll give some vampires. Vampires exist. Yeah. It's good rate. It rewards you for playing bleed cards. I like this a lot. This is a nice rework. If you bleed 2 of 4, you're again dealing 2, playing an 8. You still get a 10 for 7? You're only losing the 1 point, right? There's no double dip there. And it's only after 1 turn of bleeding, too. So the setup isn't even that long. Huh. Arcane ability change to every allied turn. On turn end, boost self by 1 if there's a bleeding enemy. Its base power is 4, so it immediately buffs to 5. As long as you can keep bleeds going. I mean, Delath can do that pretty easily, at least in round 3. Seems pretty solid. Brooks and the Garcane curves too, right? The Garcane procs Thrive. Huh. Next turn you just play another bleed card. Is there a 5-power bleeding bronze? Probably not. Is Queen of the Night in round 3? There is a 5-power bleeding bronze? Nekra? Is Nekra at 3-power? Nekrat's 5 provisions, doesn't proc Thrive. Which is kind of great, but you have to not play Portal. Yeah. Portal not nerfed? No, but they nerfed a lot of the context in where Portal was kind of egregious. Nerfing Fire Scorpion is nerfing Portal. That's probably the biggest problem with Portal. Man, Arcane's sweet. Maroon ability changed to Death Wish, season enemy unit with 4 or less power. We're skipping over Cull Talos because I already spent like 40 minutes talking about Cull Talos. This still has the problem if your opponent has small things, it's still going to randomly take their smallest thing. I don't know. Stuff like... I guess it's really just like Herald. It's really good at playing around both Manticore and Maruna. Gale is the only good change. What do you mean by good change? Oh, I'll fix that. They fix Serpent Trap not blocking profit specials? I don't think so. That would be in the fixes, right? It's not in the patch notes if they did. Necrat ability changed to Zeal Order Melee. Give an enemy unit bleeding for 2 turns. Cooldown 2 whenever you play a vampire. Reduce this unit's cooldown by 1. For 5 provisions, you get a 2-point per turn engine with 3 power. Assuming you're playing a vampire every turn, otherwise it's 1 point per turn. The 3 power is the biggest problem, right? Dealing 3 is pretty easy. It has Zeal too, so it's playing for 5. It's just good, right? Even if it gets answered, it's not the end of the world. And when it doesn't get answered, it just goes nuts. These types of cards don't normally have Zeal. Necrot seems okay. Necrot seems nuts. I guess it depends how many vampires you can play. But if you're already playing a lot of vampires, it gets you your bleeds that you need. Even if it gets answered, it's playing for good rate. Reamber is barely a cost on a card anymore. But even if they deal 3 to it, you still got 5 for 5. Swears is brutal. Sure, Swears is brutal. Back probably what it used to be. No, but it's only a 5 for 5 if your opponent answers it. The worst case on it is 5 for 5. The best case on it, you're getting 2 points a turn on your 5 provision card, which is kind of unheard of. I guess Priest sort of does that. Assuming you have something valuable to tick on every turn. It's like Arbalist without storing charges? No, because Arbalist is 1 point per turn. It's twice as good as Arbalist. When you discount the removal value. Yeah, like, Priest is risky in its own ways. Priest doesn't always tick for 2 points per turn either. Plenty of times you're ticking Priest on real cards. Granted, I'm sure you're not going to play a Vampire every turn either, so... kind of breaks even there. I don't know, I like this one. I'm excited to play with it. Definitely going to be building Vampires as the first deck. When the patch launches. It's like Enforcer with cooldown? Well, Enforcer doesn't have Zeal. What? The Zeal on this is huge. Get a new chair? I did. Got an OP seat chair. If you also want an OP seat chair, you can get $10 off on this referral link. Don't really have any other engines. I mean, you have Bruxa for Thrive, right? Thrive is an engine. I guess I don't know how the rest of the deck is being filled, either. Opponents often want to answer Plummered. Oriana's an engine, but it comes in really big. Should have above 5. I mean, it's still a couple more points. Garcane's an engine. Yeah, but it's a different type of removal that you use on Garcane than you use on Bruxa. Or, Necrot. Because it comes in at 5 versus 3. Old Spear Tip, version cost changed from 15 to 14. Okay, I mean, yeah. This feels like a bit of a relic, but it's a change. It's a good change. Spear Tip definitely didn't still need to be 15 after the ghoul nerf. Could probably be 13 pretty safely. Isn't Oak 13? Isn't Oak both 13 and way more points than Spear Tip? And represent removal value? Yeah. Whatever. Cross-faction comparisons, etc., etc. Skellige. Now we're in... You know something's weird with the patch. When the biggest section by far is Skellige. What's up with that? What happened? It's like all buffs too, right? Or all reworks. So now Ice can play any Skellige unit from your graveyard. This is relevant for Olaf. If you manage to transform a Vildkarl early, you can res the 12. I don't know. Realistically, unless I'm missing something, which I very easily could be, I feel like having an enabler as your leader is more important than being able to just replay something. This buff doesn't feel that big. What I'm gonna do when you have ice, because you can use Blood to transform your bear. Yeah, I don't know, it's cool. Just not sure how impactful it is. I can revive giant bears. Bear Masters aren't cards anymore. They got murdered. Armorsmith power changed to 2. Armorsmith ability changed to deploy. Boosts an allied unit by 2 if it's damaged, boosted by 4. Okay, so it's a 6 for 4, usually. This is a 4 provision card, right? What was this? Oh, this is if it was a warrior, boosted by 3. Okay. Yeah, sure. On crit, Longship ability changed to melee whenever your opponent plays unit damage by 1. They just changed the rollock from range to melee. They just want their players to be as confused as possible when deciding what row to play their boat on. They're gonna change it again next patch. Maybe they'll change late Longship next patch. On Great Marauder, power changed from 3 to 2. Marauder ability changed to split 3 damage randomly between all enemy units. So now it's just a 5, but you don't have to play it first. Then if your opponent like leads on a summoning circle or something, your Marauder is not just bricked. Should make it choose which row to lock it in when you draw it at random. Force you to read the card. Or, you know, look at those glowing rows that you can't possibly miss. You guys know the ones I'm talking about, right? Do I know when? It's probably gonna be in like 3.5 hours. It could be like 4.5. Rudder into Milva. I don't know, does Skellige really want a 5 for 4 that deals random damage? This is so bad in Skellige mirrors. It doesn't even play for good rate anymore. So long did nothing to pirates. F's in chat. On Great Warrior proficient cost changed from 5 to 4. Oh no. On Great Warrior ability changed to deploy, damage an enemy unit by 1, player from the graveyard damage it by 3 instead. So they really wanted to buff Freya's Blessing. And they couldn't do that without nerfing Warrior, without nerfing Bearmaster. I don't know how relevant this is for Bearmaster. It's not like provision costs matter all that much for that deck. They don't have upgrades. They have to play a critical mass of beasts. Like, in my previous list, I was literally playing Olaf as an 8. Just because I had nothing else to spend the provisions on. I was playing a random ADC to pull a 7 out of my deck. Or pull a 6 out of my deck. Which are the only upgrades I could find. But yeah, this, despite Freya's Blessing getting buffed, it got nerfed pretty hard. The thing about Resurrect Infects in most games is that usually you're getting some kind of benefit for playing the res. If you look at, like, Magic and you see cards like Unearth, or you look at Yu-Gi-Oh! And you see cards like Monster Reborn or whatever, usually there's an upside associated with playing a card from your graveyard because you had to do work to get the card in your graveyard in the first place. Yet in Homecoming, it seems to be the opposite. They want to punish you for replaying your bronzes. Like, before Homecoming, you got an extra point on your Freya body, right? There were strengthened effects that rewarded you for rezzing things in the first place. There's not really any of that in Homecoming. Monster Born is legal these last 2 years? Yeah, more. That's part of why I mentioned it. There are probably better examples. Call of the Haunted. One's been legal for much longer. And depending on what format you want to look at in Magic. And there's just a really easy one to look at, because you're getting a 3-cost back for 1. It's a tech card in Modern. One's at 3 since 2014. Oh, yep. Only 2014? That was longer than that. Ray's boasting got buffed and some are much worse now. Yeah, because you're not pulling Cyrus anymore. You don't have that benefit. On-Crate Warrior doesn't reward you for rezzing it from your graveyard. You're not playing a 7 that deals 4 anymore. Where that reward was kind of there before, because you were getting the body from Cyrus, you were getting the really efficient removal. Now you're just overpaying for a bronze. And not only are you overpaying for a bronze, but you're putting a card in your deck that you can't play in round 1. Because you won't have a graveyard yet. Like other games, Gwent has rules that don't put things in a graveyard. Matching it to card. Over 7 cards. Yeah, but in round 1, Gwent's the same way. You need to play your cards in round 1 to get them in your graveyard. Or round 2 to get them in your graveyard. Things die naturally in Magic all the time. Just through combat. If anything, it's much slower for things to get in your graveyard in Gwent. Plus, it being a 6th revision bronze isn't really something you want to be playing in round 3. So, like, it's a bronze that isn't good in round 1, which is another problem. But the ability to choose between a bunch of bronzes that aren't great value isn't really that big of a deal. Magic can fill the yard while you draw cards. Yeah, exactly. It's something that just happens over time. While the options are nice in round 3, it's kind of made up for by being a brick early on. And also you're paying a premium for it. Comparing a 60-card deck to 25-card decks. Yeah, a 60-card deck with 4 ofs versus 25-card decks with 2 ofs. It's not really that different. Especially when we're talking about round 1. In particular, I'm talking about like Modern and Legacy that have a lot of filtering. Any Skellige deck other than Bears played for his blessings since coming. Last patch there was a brand deck that rezzed Warriors. That's pretty good. Can use cards as efficient as a resource in Gwent as you can in Magic? Sure. In Gwent, you drag the card to the graveyard. It's too easy to let them be in graveyard. If you're throwing a card away, that is a huge cost. What? You're not going to discard a card just to play it from your graveyard with a res. That's so inefficient. You might as well just discard the res and play the card from your hand. There's also a benefit? What's the benefit? You could just discard the res card and then play the card from your hand later. If you're going to discard it. It's not like you're bringing a Cyrus back. It's not like there's extra value for playing the res card. There's no mana efficiency, there's no extra points. Berserk definition has been changed to trigger this ability whenever base power is equal or lower to specified amount. Yeah, this is just a great change. It's easier to read. It gives them more space with the ability. Instead of having abilities that trigger like when you... like a separate keyword for abilities that are when you like are damaged or something. You just have one catch-all that does it all. Reduces the number of keywords they need. Makes it easier to read. Just a good change all around. There's the sign that the Gwent header also says damaged. What do you mean? Hey, kangaroo. Cyrus on-crate ability changed to deploy melee, summon a Drummond Shield Maiden from your deck on this row. Oh, wait. I read this card totally wrong. In the, in the dev video. Now I know why people aren't excited about this card. Okay. Huh. We noticed. Rip. I look like a huge fool. Huh, this card's pretty trash. That was Roche Merciless of SK. Well, I was comparing it to Vigo more than Roche Merciless, but yeah. Roche Merciless isn't really fair, because Merciless is good because you're getting carryover too. There's not really carryover on Cyrus. It's 11 for 10. That's true. You like has to be playing Blob to reliably get the Shield Maiden out. It's not that important to reliably get it. You still have 2 in your deck after. Oh no, you won't. You'll only have the 1 in deck. It's not creating. Ah. So it plays as an 8 for 10 immediately, right? I think generally, well, you just force mulligan the Shield Maidens. You just never play them from hand. It's the same way as Vigo in Hyperthin decks. One Queen's Guard at 5 doesn't seem terrible. But then you have 3 cards that you don't want in your hand ever. Just to play Cyrus. It doesn't really feel worth the mulligan cost. Usually it's 10 cards. It depends on your deck. But sometimes. There's definitely times where I want to like kick some of my golds. Just so I'm not committing too much into round 1. Yeah, okay. Okay. Blob does want the thinning. And it's not like the top end is that tight. They've got plenty of space. At least currently. I don't know what the rest of the changes. Spawn would have been nuts. That's what I thought it was going into this. This is the first time I've read it properly. Cyrus is auto-included in every Skellige deck now. I don't think you can play it outside of Blob. Do you think monsters will be? I don't know. I'm not super high on the vampires. I'm interested in trying them out. Ask me in a couple days. I think on stream it was Spawn Queen's Guard on range. At the very least, I think Arrakis Queen is probably good again. I don't know about the vampire stuff. Corrupted Flaminega power changed from 5 to 4. Corrupted Flaminega provision cost changed from 6 to 7. Corrupted Flaminega ability changed to deploy boost self by 1 for each beast in your graveyard. F's in chat for Bearmaster. Rest in peace. Beast SK is dead. Yeah, there's no way this is enough to justify playing 12 bad cards in your deck. Because you can't replay it. Even if you throw Renew in your deck, you can't play multiple Fulminicas in round 3. Disgraced Brawler, ability change to deploy. Bloodthirst 3, lock self. Berserk 3, destroy self. So functionally this is identical, right? It always locked itself on, or it always died on 3. Donar, power change from 4 to 5. Ability change to deploy, damage enemy unit by 2. Bloodthirst, damage enemy unit by 4. Huh. So his floor is 7 instead of 6. Ceiling is still 9. 4 still kills a lot of things. This is good for Croc, right? These are things that it couldn't kill. Croc can put it in range anyway. And Croc wants points. No more 5 damage units out of dueling units. Yeah. They seem to want the damage to be on specials. Queen Zero activation changed from 6 to 5. Oh, that's cool. And they made it Berserk instead. Same idea. Now instead of having to spell it out, whenever this unit is damaged, you get this order ability. They can just throw Berserk 3. Just cleaner text. Still have Assassination. Yeah, special cards. They don't want it to be on units. Things that trade up. Cards like Assassination just break even. This is a very sad provision buff. We kind of talked about this already. Not really much else to say. They're buffing it, but needing to get a unit in your graveyard just so you have a little bit of utility isn't really worth paying and throwing a card that's a brick in round 1. A bronze that's a brick in round 1 in your deck. Thoughts on leader ability decoupling? My gut reaction is kind of negative to it, but I'd have to see how it's implemented. Say break even, you're playing a spell to remove a threat, you trade up, not figuratively. You're not trading up on the board. You're never getting ahead by playing Assassination. Like, your opponent leads on an engine, you Assassination it, you don't have points in play. They can still pass. Card for card, you're trading even. Sure, the card that you're removing could have potentially got more value later. But you're not getting ahead with your removal card. Hey, Rebear. Grimace power changed from 3 to 6. Grimace revision cost changed from 6 to 7. Zeal ranged, Purify, fresh whenever you play an alchemy card. How valuable is Purify? It's nice against Bounty. I guess removing like a bleed 3 against vampires matters. You're not playing alchemy cards though, right? This is realistically just a one-shot. Freya's got the alchemy tag. Did Significant get the alchemy tag? It did. Store got the alchemy tag. Well, it's definitely a tech card. Kind of just depends on the metagame. Significant's probably going to see a good amount of play. Oh, it's still summon. Did this change? Oh, it used to be summon a warrior, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's just Skellige unit. So it can res Olaf now, is the big change. And it transformed Bear Dude. know what the bounty change is. Bounty's not unplayable. Bounty's still one of the most efficient things in bronzes. Just because you can't get Unitless with it anymore, it doesn't mean that you're not still playing 8-point Slanders and 9-point Witch Hunters. And Yoda, sure. That didn't really change though. You could always res Yoda with right. This just replaces Renew in Blob. And triple can be now because it's summon. You don't get deploys. Sig bricks a lot less often. But you can play it in different decks, too. You wouldn't play Yoda in your Svablood deck. But now Sig's right reses the Transformed Bear. All this bear damage for 2? I don't fucking know, man. We skipped a bunch of stuff. Hold up. Right. So we talked about Grimace. Jeff's right was an alchemy card. Took it a little detour. Handle power changed from 5 to 8. Handle provision cost changed from 9 to 12. An ability change to deploy. Deal 1 damage to a random enemy unit on a row for each unit on that row. What in the world? So it's good with, like, dagger and greatswords, right? I assume that this is just randomly dealing damage. It's not like a one-shot deal 5 to a thing. Because that would be real bad. It's an Oak with greatsword synergy. Except your opponent decides how big the row is, not you. Oak you can stack for yourself. It's like the difference between Lacerate and Golden Froth. Everyone will row stack for me. They're just kind. Arnioff. It's pretty sweet with Arnioff. And Arster row stack for Draug now too. Not really. If you're only transforming one row, you don't want that many Revenants. Plus the Draug itself is in the row. So if you have 5 humans on a row, you play Draug, you have 6 units on the row, so you can only make 3 Revenants. That's probably the ceiling. Obviously depends on the board. Why do you play Draug now? Why wouldn't you play Draug? So again, when Draug is transforming, let's say 4 humans, you're playing a 7 that at least deals 4, and if you get even a single Revenant, you're getting above your provision value on an expensive gold. Guys, do you know how good Draug is currently? Like, how undercosted Draug currently is for how much value he gets? Draug is a disgusting card. Yeah, like, Draug single-handedly carried NR through multiple seasons. Before patch, how many versions of Draug have to beat a Nazi play? I don't know. Probably the point where your deck isn't functional anymore, where you have to start cutting your other really good top-end cards. In the previous patch, if they nerf Draug to the point where he's not playable anymore, then NR is just not a playable faction. Like, you could not play the Foltest deck without Draug before the NR rework. Why isn't Draug order? I have no idea. They wanted to give NR a good deploy effect, so they gave it the best deploy effect in the entire game. You can stop his Oreo swapping 7 base strength. Not really, you could lock it, but we'd also make it slower. It diverts a full test charge away from another order unit. You only have so many. Last season, yeah. Last season you could do whatever. Draug was still probably the best card in the deck, but you could definitely get away without it. The season before, there wasn't really an NR deck without Draug. There were some really high-rolly Hensel decks. But even most of those played Draug too, didn't they? Draug still auto-include? I don't know about auto-include, maybe. Depends how many humans you're playing. Kind of have to see how the metagame develops. Seven plus 6 points per respawn. Yeah. That's a lot of points. For full test commandos too, now you can play Draug in round 1 or 2. In the first round you're playing your commandos. Because you're not going to transform your commandos and brick your Sigdrifa. It's like, I don't want to say that it's better, but it's situationally better. You're not all in when you play Draug anymore. It still probably wins whatever round you're playing it into. Yeah, like when Draug was good, Draug won by a lot of points. It did not need all of those points. The Fran change do besides not letting them use muzzle? It gave Fran 2 more provisions. Yeah, the last rate is probably more relevant than the muzzle. Okay. Raging Bear ability change, deployed. Why did they do this? Poor Raging Bear. They didn't even like give him a point to compensate. It's just... His win rate at rank 25 is just too high. Like, they just buffed it too. That's the crazy part. They buffed it, it saw 0 play, and then they nerf it. Now you can target. Does that matter? Does positioning really matter that much? Positioning on the same row, too. It's not like you can play it on the other row. So it means you can play around, like, Treason better? Changes because of the change in Queensguard? So? You're taking a card that was basically unplayable in Queensguard, buffing it by up revision, and you're worried about Raging Bear comboing with it? Is your veteran setup? It doesn't even get you all the way there. You need to deal 3, right? Just summon it. Oh, it's because of the Sigdrifa's right buff. That's why. Deal 3 to what? Veteran. Veteran got a gigantic buff. It now has Berserk 2 heal self. Change to be able to proc Queensguard. Doesn't Queensguard just have to be damaged? It's Berserk 3, right? It's worse with Queensguard. Yeah. Here's a base 5. I mean, unless that's somewhere else in the patch notes. It says provision cost changed. That would be a crazy buff to Queensguard. I guess you also had to deal 2. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not. Restore now has the alchemy category. Restore ability change to heal an allied unit, then boost it by the amount it was healed. Build damages 1 unit. I don't trust this wording. I'm gonna wait to see how it plays. That's such a weird way to word it. A weird way to have the card work, I should say. If it only hits 1 unit multiple times. I think it has to be spread out. All the other cards like this are spread out. The wording would suggest... No, the wording would suggest it just hits one thing to a random enemy unit. But the way cards are made in Gwent, I feel like it has to be spread out. Being a Bloodthirst enabler? Okay, then yeah, it's probably spread out. Just the wording's awkward. Well, how's Harold worded? Harold says split 8 damage randomly between all enemy units. Delirium? Delirium split 6 damage randomly between all units on an enemy row. But granted, it's CDPR wording, so... it could actually do anything. For all we know, this boosts units on your side of the board. It doesn't actually damage anything. You really gotta play with it to know for sure. Maybe it won't do anything. Maybe it's just a vanilla. Maybe it's just an 8 for 12. But yeah, the Beckers... Restore Beckers is kind of cool. Still pretty much just works with Yida. Not really worth using on a veteran. You can repeat the first part of the sentence for each enemy unit. I mean, maybe? There's a lot of different arguments you could make as to how to read this. It is worded in a kind of awkward way. I'm pretty sure it splits the damage randomly. I think that's the only way that it makes sense that it would work. I'm not sure this wording is the best way of conveying that, but I'm pretty sure it splits it. Where are we? So we did Sigjip Red already. Sigvald ability, change to order, melee, damage unit by 1, cooldown 1, berserk 4. Damage a unit by 2 instead. So it just has to be damaged by 1 instead of 2. Okay, I mean... I didn't damage by 3 before, right? You just make it as vulnerable. It's obviously a buff to Sigvald. How much that matters, I'm not sure. It's a safe buff. It's certainly worse than Black Rayla. You have to go down to 2 is absolute trash. Yeah, it wasn't the kind of thing you played towards. It was just a nice incidental thing when your opponent happened to damage 2 on the way to killing it. Now you can, like, kind of play towards its Berserk. In the video, it says, deal 1 damage to random units on a row, multiplied by the number of units on that row. I think they're still fiddling with the wording. I don't know. We'll see what it gets released as. I don't know how you would want to word it without using a variable. Like, the initial way that I'd want to word it is, like, split X damage among units on a row where X is equal to the number of units on the row. I'm sure there's a way of wording it that doesn't use a variable. But I don't want to think about it anymore. Svalbard Cultist. Power change from 3 to 4. Deal 1 damage to a random unit on a row. Repeat this ability for each enemy unit on the row. Yeah, that works. That works. What calls ability change to the end of turn. Heal the unit to the left by 1. Damage unit on the right by 1. Such a weird card. It's a 5 provision card still, right? So if you can get heal value immediately, it plays for 5. Because you don't need to damage anything. It's old Wild Boar. Except the good thing about Wild Boar is that it's strengthened. And there were cards that had permanent benefits by getting damaged. It's just too awkward, right? Ideally, when you're using... I guess it, like, replaces... It kills skulls well. But you still need to be getting heal value to want to be playing this. It's gotta just be too awkward, right? You're excited for ST meta? Pumpkin Share is? Yeah, I don't know. Friend's a little scary. I don't know. We'll see. Circus could always block the damage. Well, no, that's the thing. Even if you put this at the end of a row where it's not damaging anything, 1 heal per turn isn't that good. It requires comboing with other cards to be getting consistent value. It's not just a straight up boost. Cultist is 5. So you get a ship and a protector. It damages to the right by 1, though. It's the same side as Priest. So you can't even stack the damage with Priests. To get multiple pings per turn for your Protector. Another one Flaminnica to get heals? Yeah, exactly. There's just... Flaminnica is so much better at healing. Has more base power, you're paying 1 more provision, but in exchange you sometimes get that burst after your opponent like lacerates you or something. Sometimes the damage is going to be an upside, but a lot of the time... you're just playing a 4 for 5. I don't know. I'm not sold. It seems way too clunky for me, but we'll see. Counters Kahir by healing instead of boosting. It's true. Svalblood Fanatic ability changed to Berserk 2, transform into Bear Abomination. So functionally the same card. Nothing changes there. Just wording. Bearmaster power changed from 1 to 4. Provision cost changed from 6 to 4. He has the warrior category. Give an allied beast vitality for 3 turns. Bonded. Give an allied unit vitality for 3 turns. I mean, so it's a 7 for 4. And the problem is that every beast is overcosted, right? Beasts are still bad. Yeah, and the Bonded's not giving you extra value either. Just lets you put the vitality on something else. Still requires you to put a bunch of beasts in your deck because you have to play the first Bearmaster still. Yep, Markvarg and Roach. Plus, it's only a 7 for 4 if your opponent doesn't kill the thing you put vitality on, so... It's not really 7. It's 6 tempo. It doesn't get you 7 points for the tempo as far as passes go. You better Bono just boost instead. I mean, it would be better. It doesn't really solve the problem of you wanting to play beasts in your deck. Bear Abomination. Yeah, so if you're playing natural fanatics, rather than transform them. The problem is you don't really want to play your 4 provision card in the same turn. In the same round, you're playing your Svalblood Totem, which is the main way of getting the Bear Abominations. And all corrupted Flaminnica got nerfed. Yeah. I wouldn't say it got nerfed so much as just removed from the game. Grant good beasts can be used. Yeah, but you can say that about anything, right? Like, if you introduce enough cards to support an archetype, the payoff for that archetype is going to be playable. It's just not currently the world that we're living in. Swindle got removed from the game too. Thanks fucking god. Tershak Veteran. Ability change to deploy. Damage self by 3. Berserk 2. Heal self. This card is sweet. So, it plays as a 5 for 5. Immediately. If Priest ticks on it for 3 turns, you got 3 free turns of Priest ticks, and this plays as an 8. It combos with Nut. That does what? 6 plus 3 plus 8? 17 for 13? It's not bad. Can Berserk trigger multiple times? I'd imagine it can, right? Butcher. The issue with Butcher is you'll have to play 2 Butchers. Because it only deals 2. Dealing 3 isn't that easy, right? There's Nut and then nothing else. We have Harold on the board with the new cultist. Sure. With Harold, it's cool. 1 priest tick and a butcher. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I like Vet a lot too. Veteran seems sweet. Plus, it's a card that you actually want to play in round 1 that makes your Hjalmar better. It's another backup target for Sigjiffa's right. Because, like, Svalbard can just play this now, right? Like, no problems at all. So then Sigjiffa's right has Olaf, the Bear, Veterans as reasonable targets. Broken? I don't know about Broken. This is what bronzes should be. Something that synergizes with an archetype that can get very good value, but you have to build around it. You can't just throw this in any Skellige deck and have it work. But if you're able to meet this Berserk condition, the more reliable this is for you, the better the card becomes. Build Carl, Berserk 2, yeah, another not functional change. Is there a way to deal 6? In an efficient way? What are all the self-wound cards for Skellige? Oh. Gwent. That does 4. It's a heal. Yeah, so it's mostly priests. Is this the Raging Bear combo, guys? Is this why they nerfed Raging Bear? To combo with Veteran? Trial of the Grasses? That doesn't work, right? Because it'll boost first. It does work. It doesn't, because we know Marjo doesn't work. Yeah, people have tried Marjo plus Field Carl. I'm pretty sure it's current power. So that would proc it immediately. Pretty sure Veterans deploy happens first. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, Veteran seems sweet. I definitely want to tinker around with this a bit. Heim 7-point vet. So what, the Heim swaps power, right? So Heim goes to 7, Veteran goes to 8. Isn't that really bad? Can you just play an 8 for 8? It goes to 5. You get the vet to heal once, and you damage it by 1 again. Okay, guys. I'm gonna take a quick restroom break before we delve into the last few factions. And by the last few factions, I mean remaining 4. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Hope you guys stick around. Hey YouTube, quick intermission to plug my Patreon. We're up to 5 patrons and growing after just a couple days. For those of you that haven't checked it out yet, you can find a link to the Patreon in the video description. We have a few tiers for Discord roles or deck techs, and working towards a goal to bring more content to YouTube. Anyways, back to Gwent. Okay, Northern Realms. Foltest gets reverted. Sweet. Kinda crazy they buffed him in the first place. Kalenth gets nerfed. Okay. It's fine, I guess? Maybe the deck's win rate was too high? I mean, Kalenth felt pretty good when we were playing it, but just a little weird. Kinda comes out of the blue. Bloody Baron, power changed from 7 to 6. Okay. It's still pretty efficient, right? The 1 point here feels pretty big. Playing just a 7 is a lot worse than playing just an 8 when the reset isn't relevant. The ceiling on it's still as high as ever, though. Leo can't deal with it? Well, you could always just play it melee, and Leo couldn't deal with it. You're in the back row. That's what I said. Now it's a 7 when you play it on the back row. Or it was an 8. Draug ability changed to transform all allied humans on own row into revenants without changing their power. I understand the change of Bloody Baron. Peter does the same strength with his base power. It does, though, because that's the floor on the card, right? When you don't get a reset, Bloody Baron still plays for great value per card. When Peter doesn't get a reset, he's trash. Bloody Baron's never bad. Peter is pretty commonly bad. Plus, it tends to be an effect that you want in round 3, which is more valuable in round 3, which means the scaled-up version is probably going to be way better than the cheaper version. Baron is a much, much stronger card than Peter. Kind of ironic how Reddit stopped Drought from getting a proper nerf. This is probably the first thing I would do to Drought, too, if I wanted to change it without killing it. I don't hate the change. Draug's still good. I don't think Drought is necessarily still the best card in the game by a huge margin. The only thing you'd ever hear about Jags. Oh, really? Start with power or order. Yeah, maybe. I don't know, Draug is like the kind of flashy build-around card that I tend to like. It just pushed a little bit too far currently. And I guess human is just a little bit too generic too. It's not really build around on probably like half the card in the game are humans. Still good enough to auto-win long rounds. It's significantly worse in the long rounds. This row caps pretty easily. Granted, significantly nerfing its ability in a long round isn't saying much. I don't know, I like how it isn't quite too heavy-handed. Yeah, the fact that you have to play Draug on the same row as the Revenants takes away some points, too. Long round strength wasn't the problem with the card. Deck had enough combo pieces to save. Most decks could realistically win round 1 versus it. They don't have tons of broken golds. Got almost nothing for bleeding it out round 2. Sure. Because the deck had crazy short rounds, too. But I would say Draug was most of that deck's long round potential, no? It was the reason you could go into 10-card rounds against pretty much everybody and win. Whereas it's like the Selkirks and the Blue Stripe combo that make you good in short rounds, too. Sure, but if now the deck has a weaker long round, then other decks can compete with it in a long round. I think that's the problem you want to solve, right? To not give the Foltest deck both the best long round and the best short round in the game. And I think this nerf probably does that. Like, the current issue with the deck is no matter what you do, the deck is outpowering you in some way. There's no way to manipulate the rounds to where that deck is weak. Shock had the best flavor when honors of dead factions. He was the thing carrying it. Francesca already had a better long round than Foltest. Yeah, damage engines are one of the things that could keep things in check, because you just never get a Draug. Double snipe, ping engines. If you didn't get double swiped, you beat Fran in a long round. You were beating quad mercs. I don't think I lost a game to Foltest where I got quad mercs. Yeah, just can be played with Francesca. It's an ST and Syndicate card. Kiramet's power changed from 7 to 5. This feels like an overreaction. I don't know, I think 6 was probably fine. Do you want this at 5 in anything? It breaks even after 2 turns with vitality ticking. Assuming nothing dies and you have enough base power. Meave. Does Meave want it? It's... So you can kind of look at this as a 2-point per turn engine that you can't play on turns 1 or 2 of the round, and has capped gains. But in exchange, it's like slightly harder to answer because it's split among 2 bodies. Is a 5 power 2-point per turn engine that you can't play early for 9 good. There's not really anything similar, right? There's Black Rayla. That one's easier to answer. And can't play like... Yeah, there's a very specific window in the round where you have to play it. Never get Trynet entry plus the bleed guy. Oh, true. That could be a reason that Meave wants it. Okay. I did disregard that. That's the point of an engine, right? To get more provisions than your cost. When things go right and you play it in a certain point in the round. It still has pretty severe weaknesses to muzzle. I don't know. Hey, what else? Pavetta provision cost changed from 7 to 8. Roast Merciless changed from 5 to 4. Provision cost changed from 11 to 12. So how many points did Foltest lose? There's like 5-ish lost here. Because you're losing dual value as well. On Selkirk and Prince. A point here. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Plus whatever you think you're losing on Draug. So like 15. Have they ever nerfed a deck by 15 before? Work out 10. 10 feels a little conservative. Probably don't play Kira and Foltest anymore. Sure, then you just like call it like a point. Because the next best card that you could play here is like a point worse than Kira was. Maybe closer to like 13. You still play Falibor? Yeah, sure. But the reason you weren't playing Falibor before is because you assumed Kira was better. I'll lose by 20 instead of 40, yeah. Or 5 instead of 20. That wouldn't be auto-included in NR. Yeah, as they nerf the other ridiculous top-end cards, the ridiculous top-end card that wasn't seeing play indirectly gets better in relation. It's also NR only now? Oh. That doesn't currently matter, right? No one's playing Akvist. Ike stopped seeing play. The targets are Selkirk, Commando, Prince. Do you even play non-Northern Realms targets? Oh, Dim? No one did that. No one sane did that. Oh, Regis. Regis kind of mattered. That's fair. It was like a respectable tech card in some metas. You did that? Guess you're insane. Doesn't really affect the standard commandos list from last season. Yeah. Blaze. It mattered more 2 seasons ago than last season. 2 seasons ago there was Blaze, there was Ike. Yeah, those. Order, should I play first turn? No, all the like Croc's in order too. Dana provision cost changed from 15 to 16. Cool. The best Scoia'tael leader provision bonus changed from 13 to 15. Ability changed to order. Play a Scoia'tael special card from your graveyard. So you can't flashback Lacerate, you can't flashback Muzzle. But Water of Rockallon got significant upgrades with regards to Francesca. So now you can much more easily split up the waters. You don't need to either pray to find a Dryad or even keep a Dryad in your hand in round 3 anyway to get off the water. Harmony's supposed to be a Dryad tag, why does Half-Elf have it? Wait, does he? Whoa! Was this in the video yesterday? You don't have to play Falv either. Yeah, if you want to trim that, you can. I'm not sure you will, because it can get Call of the Forest too, right? Weeping Willow got Harmony too. I knew that one. I didn't see the Half-Elf Hunter getting it. So it's a 6-for-6 Harmony that puts 2 bodies in play on a tag that isn't Dryad. Whoa. Granted, it's on Elf, which is a tag that has a lot of contention already. Now you can sequence Harmony different ways. Yeah, kinda. This like incentivizes you to go light on elves. It's just more good Harmony cards, too. Now you can get Trynet in round 1 without having to throw Boar in your deck. Dana Isengrim? I don't know why you'd play Dana. How playable do I think Pavko is? Fairly playable. He's a human, right? So he gets you human for your Harmony. If you're already playing engines, it's sort of like a Black Rayla. I don't think this is a hard condition to meet in any of the Harmony decks. I say I don't want to play Valve? No. I said you probably wanted to play Valve because it can also get Call the Forest. If Call wasn't a card, then I probably wouldn't want to play Valve. Because you wouldn't need to. Plus the 4 provision option got better. The Vitality card. Feels a lot less bad to have this be the only target for your Valve. Yep, what are we playing today? Oh yeah, only when the patch comes out. I'm not playing more of this patch. We play Agitators now. I don't know. I'd have to look. I'm not sure how many dwarves you want. The thing about Harmony is you want to split your card types. An Agitator kind of makes you play a lot of dwarves to be reliable. I think Syndicate will be too weak now to change the bounty and DJ. I'd lean towards no, but the possibility's there. Bounty's still worth a lot of value. Just the play pattern with it changed a little bit. Call the Forest. Ability change to play a Skellige unit from your deck boosted by 2. Yeah, this one's crazy. Just a Skellige Royal Decree with 2 points stapled on. They can be tutored by Valve. Skags isn't per card anymore if you draw him round 3. Oh, you can like call for Skags. That's cute. I didn't think about that. Put on Aileron is easy. If you could always call the Forest Aileron, Call the Forest would have been nuts. The thing is, opponents usually respected it and played around it, so it was trash. The buff will be before the deploy. There's no way it's not. All these other effects are always before deploy. Because you could call Skags before, too. And it worked. I'm talking about Call the Forest and sheer burning all 5s. Yeah, this is another Miaman buff. Another Cintron Lion buff. Yennefer's broken, by the way. I think Yennefer might be the most overrated card of this entire patch. But we're not there yet, so... Back to Skellige. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's not the card people are making it out to be. And Royal Decree boosted by 2? Yeah, I do. Hey, Mike. Dull Blathana Bomber. Ability changed to deploy damage 2 random enemy units by 2. Sure. Why? So instead of damaging 1 on each row, it's just random across the whole enemy board now. Hey, Gissenrun, how's it going? Call the Forest seems to be the most crazy card of this patch. I don't know. Water stands out. We briefly talked about iced. Didn't seem like that big of a change. Dryad's Caress. Change to Purify an allied unit and boost it by 3. If you control a Dryad, also give it Vitality for 3 turns. Same value, but now you get 3 of the points up front, so it's not playing for 2 tempo. It's playing for 5 tempo. Rip Brand Bears. Yeah, there were many Fs in chat. Good night, Red Dream. Have a good one. Vitality for 3 turns. Oh, you have to control a Dryad to get the Vitality. It's not the... You don't get the Purify with the Dryad anymore. I mean, you're always going to have a Dryad, right? You're not playing this from your hand. You're pulling it off valve as your worst-case scenario. Oh yeah, Caress is definitely better now. Floor is the worst Mahakamail. Yeah, for 1 less provision. My Blood Feast stays the same. That's fine. Different cards and different factions. Thank God. I'm so happy for these changes. These are some of my least favorite cards this last patch. Or these 4-power ping engines. They're just so miserable to play against. They're so hard to kill. And they just take over a game. Especially when you're playing multiple off the same card. So like the Portal into Fire Scorpions or the Justice into Mercs. How many things you can do with New Call? Even Call for Defender. Yeah, it's... New Call's sweet. New Call is definitely good. Oh, another 4-provision Dwarf. I missed this one earlier. That's interesting. I guess it makes it in line with the Arbalest and Fire Scorpion. You can't really portal it in Dwarfs. Too many of the Dwarves are 4 provisions. You'd lose Agitators, Skirmishers, Guards. Marauders if you're in the market for this. I mean, you might be, right? 6 for 4 with the Dwarf tag. And I can only play so many 4s. The deck just needs more top end, right? Pretty sure Dwarf is a dead archetype? I don't know about that. Even before the nerfs to Dwarves. Or the buff to Dwarves. Putting these to 4. The Fran Dwarf deck was good. And there have been a bunch of buffs to the deck since then. Like, this is... The Dwarves have still gotten buffed in relation to 2 patches ago. By a lot. There's been a provision buff on Mercenary, there's been this new card, a provision buff on Guard, a point buff on Guard. Whatever else changed last patch too. Losing reach on Skirmisher. I don't know, it might not be as good as Fran Harmony, but I wouldn't call it dead. Well, you played Ever Harmony because you have access to Mercs. You get these ping engines. And if you get to round 3 without using your leader, playing Double Justice still just wins the game. Dealing 3 1 or 2 times isn't hard. Dealing 3 4 times is a nightmare. Especially in a reasonable enough time frame that you're not just going to die to the Mercs anyway. It's not hard to kill 1 or 2. It's hard to kill 4 of them. You don't need to live that long. You can play Justice with Fran. Cull has to get a unit, though. Oh, but yeah, Cull can get a Gourd, too. Half of Hunter ability changed to Harmony, deploy spawn an Elven Deadeye to its own row. Yeah, I missed the Harmony tag on this when we were watching the dev video yesterday. This is kind of cool. Having Harmony on non-Dryads makes the engine development a lot smoother. Now instead of having to go like Harmony Dryad, Harmony Dryad, Harmony Dryad every 3 turns where you're not developing any Harmony procs, now you can go Harmony Dryad, Elf Harmony unit, Trynet Harmony unit. Now you have your 3 Harmony engines in play while developing the other engines that you played. And then obviously if you go like turn 1 Waters, play Half-Elf Hunter, now you have 5 Harmony units in play while proccing your initial set. To 6 for 6 too. Well, it's not playing for great rate. The Harmony tag's gonna play for an additional few points. Another tag is diminishing returns. Yeah, the second tag is 1 point worse. The third tag is 2 points worse. But if you're building a deck around maximizing the value on Harmony, those 1 or 2 points aren't that big of a deal. Dana Harmony? No, it's all gonna be Fran. There's no reason to play Dana. Hawker Smuggler provision cost changed from 7 to 6. Dana was already arguably a dead leader. As soon as they changed Waters of Brokilon, Dana wasn't really worth playing anymore. And it's just getting worse as they continue to buff Fran. Because the reason to play Dana previously was that Dana let you play your Waters of Brokilon and then play another unit in the same turn, so your Dryads got out of removal range. Particularly out of Gimpy Gerwin range. Now it doesn't really matter because they just come in at 4. Plus, replaying the Waters is worth more points now than it was in the past, where you got 6 points initially, now you get 8 points. This buff is cool. I like playing Hawker Smugglers. This makes them easier to fit in. It's a human, so it kind of conflicts with the Pavko and Milva slot for Harmony. But maybe you want a 3rd or 4th human? Especially when there's more Harmony units, right? Now it's not just Waters and the 4 provision Dryads from hand. You're also going to have Half-Elf Hunters, you're going to have the tree. So maybe the Harmony matters in more than just round 3. What would I do with Dana's ability? Any change suggestions? So I really like leaders that aren't just one-shot leaders. I would like to see some kind of passive on a Squirtle leader. As to, like, what kind of passive, I haven't really given it much thought. Tutor leaders just tend to be kind of bad. They're not increasing the ceiling of your deck by all that much. Is there any incentive to play more than 25 cards? Not reasonably, no. Francesca Harmony or Dana Harmony? Francesca, not close. Francesca's been the correct Harmony leader for like 3 months. Do a thing when Harmony triggers? Yeah, maybe. I like leaders that have an impact throughout the entire game, rather than leaders that are just doing a thing in round 3. But aside from that general idea, I don't really have anything that I've thought through. If you're not going to have leaders just be cards that you play like cards, then they shouldn't just like be points one time like a card is how I look at it. Gwent because I play her in round 1? I don't know about that. Yeah, Spellblood's cool. I like Spellblood. The main examples I would use would be like Croc, Meave, Arrakis Queen, Bran. But Small Blood is like that in a different way. Mahaka Marauder. Gain Vitality for 2 turns, Bonded, gain Vitality for 4 turns. And it is now another 4 provision dwarf. There's so many 4 provision dwarfs. Agitator, Skirmisher, Guard, Marauder, Mercenary. And the top end just isn't there to support it, right? There's only so many expensive dwarves you can play. Yeah, but they don't really want to, because every card that you play that doesn't have the dwarf tag is worth so much less in that deck. Because there's so many payoffs for playing as many dwarves as possible. Guard gets better, Zoltan gets better. What are the other ones? Mercenary gets better. Marauders give Vitality to something else. Maybe. It's not just that proactive. Barclay, there we go. It's been a while since I played dwarves. Play Call on that deck now? Yeah, for sure. The problem with Papco is Papco still isn't a dwarf. I don't think he's good enough to really make up for that. It probably just lets you get away with like making sure you can play Ithlin. You can fit in like Ithlin, Oak, and Call the Forest. But I'd have to see. Papco's great in Harmony. Yeah, but we're talking about dwarves, not Harmony. Is anyone's mind blown at the patch notes? No, not really. Was anything... Have I seen anything so far that I would call mind-blowing? I like the Gale rework. I think this is a really cool design. Way more interesting than it was before. Veteran, too. I think Veteran's sweet. Garrock Greens, you waste bleed proc. Yeah, but do the math on it. So instead of dealing 3, think of it as dealing 2. And then see what point values you come up with. In most cases, France arguably water. Yeah. In the Harmony deck. Triss at 4 power, a little strong. I don't know. What wants it? What are you playing it in? Isn't Fran tier 1 now? I may still have to say what is tier 1 before the patch even comes out, but Fran is definitely a contender. I think Foltest still have enough power after the patch. I don't know, it got nerfed by like 15 points. I'm not sure exactly how many points better it was than some of the other stuff going on, but 15 might be kind of close. Deck was kind of nuts. Play a deck that can fit Lacerate as an example, which isn't that bad anymore. I don't know if you want to play Triss just for Lacerate. Maybe. Like, no one plays Tin Boy in Syndicate. Triss Epidemic. That's interesting. Now you can Epidemic 3s with Triss? I didn't consider that. The main issue that I'd see there is the decks that want to play Epidemic probably want to be playing other specials in their bronzes too, which will turn your Triss into a roll. If not a roll directly from the specials you play, then the specials you play combined with any specials your opponent might be playing. And Epidemic's the kind of card you want to reliably be able to play. You put a lot of effort into lining that up. And patch shopping, I think in like 2 hours. Versus last team was unplayable because Syndicate specials. Yeah, that's the biggest problem that I have with it. If you could play Triss, and you would only be shown the specials from your own deck, I'd agree Triss would be kind of cool. There'd probably be some decks that want it. When your opponent's playing specials, it's so miserable. I think monsters will be playable this season. Yeah. Between the ping engines getting nerfed and the ping engines getting nerfed, I think Iraq is squeaking at a lot of equity there. Maybe on Veteran. I think Veteran's really cool. We talked about it a bit earlier. Oglace memes are dead now? Wait, why? You should try playing Veteran over Olaf. I don't know if that's a replacement you want to make, but maybe. Olaf's not an exciting card, for sure. They feel kind of different slots, though. What else are you filling the top end with? Too many counters to bleed to make it viable? I don't necessarily think so. The mechanic's just kind of clunky overall. But the first deck we're going to play when the patch hits is definitely going to be a vampire deck, so we'll find out. Garrison? Oh, the Fran one. Sure. But yeah, there's other ways of doing it. I think Dandelion... Does he play more often? Yeah, I think he's like at the point where he starts becoming reasonable with synergy. We talked about that a lot more earlier. Between the buffs to bronzes and the provision buff, he seems kind of reasonable. You can Fran call for Oglace to play Garrison. Yeah. You can also use Dana if you don't want to use Fran. He's gonna be the new crimes leader. He just goes back to Hummelfort, right? I don't think it wants to be DJ still. I could be wrong. But I feel like it's probably Hummelfort. Okay, where are we at? Morin, provision costs. So Morin buff. This doesn't do anything for Harmony, because this is the worst card type. Panther ability changed to deploy melee, damage an enemy unit by 2, enemy bleeding for 4 turns. Okay, so it's no longer a brick in the Skellige matchup. It's still a beast, which is the most important part of this card. The bleed is kind of awkward, but it makes the card have a 7-point ceiling instead of a 6-point ceiling. I like it. Definitely a very different card. It's not removal anymore. It was kind of the only bronze removal. I had skirmishers, right? So you had a few ways of dealing 3. Panther was kind of redundant. The reason you played it was because of the Beast Stag. Maybe should have been more drain oriented. They just picked bleed instead of drain. It's kind of arbitrary which one they pick. Pavko, we talked about Pavko already. Sursa changed from 3 to 4. So they undid the Sursa nerf. Meh. It's again kind of got the worst card type. But it has Harmony. And there's 8 for 5. 7 for 5, right? It's still 3 power. Now Sursa played in every deck and nerfed again. No, I think cards have gotten power crept to the point where Sursa's not auto-include anymore. Trained board, provision cost changed from 8 to 7. So another playable Trynet. So now you can pretty easily play 3 Tryents in your Harmony deck. Willow, Boar, Oak. If you're already playing Pavko, then Boar's just another 5-point engine. Skag gonna become unplayable if Yen will be popular. What? Skags is good against Yen. Things get reset when you go to the top of deck. You don't keep the boost. Yeah, that was mentioned in chat earlier. Interesting changes. Just Joachim him out. Waylay, damage an enemy unit by 3, death blow, spawn, elven, deadeye. Okay, so it's primal savagery, but you only get 6 points, but it's in an elf body, which is a more relevant tag. Elves can't line this up though, right? No, they have... There's a couple elves that deal damage, right? There's the officer, there's the archer. Swordmaster, okay. That's kind of nice. I mean, you can just look at it as a 3 deal 3 at 5 provisions. Can you an interesting Hyperthen deck with the addition of Yen and Joachim? Why though? Is the dip in the Pontar it's so bad? No, not really. You're not just playing it in any Squirtle deck, you're playing it when the elf tag matters. Much like you're playing Pontar in a deck where the coins matter. Or the crime tag matters. It's not just a 6 for 5. Organic's the tactic. Oh, that's cool. I forgot that it was tactic. Got that weird card type. There's also crime and a synergy too. Yeah, and the decks that play crime play dip. What? Not sure what point you're trying to make. Dip at a death blow would be bad too. On deal 3? It'd be worse in Syndicate, because Syndicate doesn't have ways of lining it up. That's what you gotta look at, right? Squirtle elves in particular have a ton of ways of lining it up. You have Archer, you have Swordmaster, you have the Officer. Lining it up to 3 isn't hard. 1 or 2 damage often does it. Also kills the now 3 base engines. Yeah, exactly. The deck doesn't have a way of dealing 3, and this gives you a way to deal 3. If the deck needs another 5, I could definitely see it. Weeping Willow. Kind of talked about this already. It's quite sweet. Gives you another Trynet to play in your Harmony deck. You don't mind playing it early. The shield is nice on your engine. I don't think it'll drive you to play other poison units, but the utility's cool. Maybe you splash in the Harmony Dryad, or the Harmony Poison Dryad or 2. You're acting as the Roche Cure. I have no idea. It's the kind of effect people always overrate. And a Henrietta provision cost changed from 15 to 16. Cool. Still never playing Anna over Ardal. But cool. Emissary changed to Spying deploy. Boost an allied unit by 7. So a point buff on Emissary effectively makes it a 5 provision swallow now. Ooh, what's this? iOS. Maybe I'm crazy. These look like... I'm probably just crazy. I'm not going to finish this sentence. It looks fine. Looks like... I was gonna say that too. It looks like the old Gwent border. I'm not sure if I'm just going crazy, though. It's a phone screen? Yeah, it looks so different. Not that it's a good or bad thing. I didn't mind how beta looked. Thank God. As we mentioned with Dwarven Merc, I really hated these cards. It just made first play feel so oppressive when you didn't have the removal for them. Patch out? Nah, you still got another, like, hour and a half. At least. Saret. There's just no more deal 5s on units anymore. Okay. Do you still play Witcher Trio? As far as the value they get goes, wasn't really changed. It's still the most efficient locks in the game. Selkirk. Yeah, that's gated behind order. You could say Blaze, too. Matches in like an hour and a half, probably. Maybe a little longer. Striga. Ah, Striga's still around. Skellen's ability changed to order. Spawn and play a copy of the last tactic card you've played this round. So you can Petrie's filter this if you really want to. Here you can play Saret Letho without Ox because of the P change. I don't think you'd want to do that. The lock on Letho is half of his strength. Trying to best CDPR forgets Trigger existed. That seems pretty likely. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think this really matters. But for people that just want to play their artifacts, you can definitely Thunderbolt it. Why nerf Nilfgaard? The Nilfgaard decks were kind of oppressive. Their good matchups were really good. Doing Muzzle Garrison replayed? Oh, you're not thinking big enough. We're replaying Bribery and we're making 2 Oaks. Why not 3 Oaks? Because then I need 2 Petries. Kind of shocked you didn't touch Joust. They just hit Scorpion instead. You don't want to over-nerf it by nerfing every card in the deck, right? Just make tweaks one at a time. Yennefer's Invocation ability changed to place an enemy unit or artifact at the top of your deck. I think this is the most overrated card in this patch. I'm not gonna say that it's, like, unplayable or bad. But it didn't get that much better, guys. A lot of the time you use Yennefer's Invocation on something, it's not... Okay, most of the time you play Yennefer's Invocation on something that you want to steal, it's not something that's a lot of points on the board. So, like, if you want to steal, like, their Leo or something, you're playing Yens for 3, just to play the Leo. Or, like, they have a tall unit in play that was boosted, and you Yennefer's Invocation it. You're not getting that boost. You're probably just playing, like, a 5 provision bronze or something that they boosted with their whatever. It's a red coin / bleed card. Yeah, if you can get them to play their, like, an expensive gold in round 1, then this card's sweet. Not remove them from the card at the top of your deck? It is, yeah. But how valuable that is... It's not as valuable as people are saying it is. Most of the time when you play it in round 3, it's just removal anyway. And building around this card so that you can play the card that you're putting on top of your deck in round 3, I don't think that's worth it. I've played enough Cantarella Yen to know that a lot of the time you Yennefer's Invocation something, it's not something you want. Yeah, you could. I'm not sure how often you're gonna want your opponent's Cull Talos. Worst case scenario, to remove any unit. Yeah, and it was already that. And it did get slightly better, too. But it's not, like, the oppressive card that people are making it out to be. It'll probably see play in some decks. It'll be cool. It's not the end of the world, guys. It's not the Roche of this patch. It's not Kira. Joachim, sure. Joachim isn't a card you want to put in your deck. Vilgefortz doesn't give you the deploy. Dandelion is Dandelion. Yeah, and I think that's the main benefit, is if your opponent commits one of their goals in round 1 or 2. Even then. What goals are they playing in round 1 or 2 that's worth the removal value, too? It's usually going to be the smaller things, right? Hopefully Poet's okay. Yeah, Poet's very okay. Yennefer's Invocation's not a thing that would make me want to play Poet, though. A lot of the gold to get played in round 1 are stuff like Swears. The things that have lower power that you don't really want to use a card on. Well, no, because you're still using your leader and a card to steal their card. Dealing a bottom would be pretty sweet. You can play Ardal and not commit a card to do it. If you mean in round 1, yeah, like Yennefer's Invocationing a botchling in round 1, it's pretty sweet. And again, I think that's probably the best use of the card, is when you get a good one in round 1. I don't know how often it's going to happen, though. Doubles emergency artifact removal. Yeah, like the floor on it's only so bad. The floor on it's just like remove target unit. Or remove target card. But this change isn't that much better than it was previously. Nang Sigurd build Carl. Yeah. It certainly makes the round 1 and 2 ones a lot better. Well, the floor was already high. The ceiling got higher. But not by a ton. Like, the ceiling got a lot higher when you played in round 1 and 2. When you have the option to. I don't think it's reasonable to play Calvé just so you can play the card that you get in Invocation in round 3. I don't think you're teching Joachim into your deck so that you can play the card that Yennefer's Invocation's doing. Unless Poet is already a good card, I don't think you're just throwing Poet in your deck specifically for Yennefer's Invocation. But if you're just in the market for like a Curse of Corruption in your Nilfgaard deck, then yeah, this is fine. Patch is probably out in like an hour-ish. Poet is great for Nilfgaard thanks to Vivian. I mean, it got cheaper. It didn't really get better for Viv. Isn't it like kind of bad with Viv now? It's only +8. There's other cards that are similar or better. I think. Did everything get buffed? Are there good Viv targets anymore? There's still Leo, right? That's +7. Swears is 5. Roach is 7. Yeah, like it's one more point than Roach or Leo. When he spies with Invoking? No. 'Cause the best use for this card is when your opponent has something tall in play that also has a deployability, or like has some recurring value. So stealing Oaks, stealing Thalibors, Kiras, all that kind of stuff. But when your opponent just has like a big boosted unit, you're not really getting value by putting it on top of your deck. Oak's the best target. Yeah, Oak is probably the best target. Thalibor is pretty close. But Oak's usually bigger. Because you want to get value out of both halves of this, right? You want to get value out of the removal, and you want to get value out of the extra card quality that you're getting. Invocation is like the strongest card. I completely disagree. I think we've seen multiple cards that got buffed that are more impactful than Yennefer's Invocation. I think the Waters buff is a bigger deal than the Yennefer's buff. Granted, I guess this puts Yennefer's Invocation from seeing no play to probably seeing play. so I guess it's a little different. But this buff is a huge deal. Being able to play the waters from your graveyard with Fran without needing a Dryad in your hand. Can you steal Shoop? No, it'll get banished. Can you done Harmony? Seems very good. Yep, new season starts today. New legendary card added to the Syndicate faction. Walter Veritas. Walter Runestone. What about leaders change? Which leader in particular? Fran? I mean, I get why they changed Fran. Just opens up design space for neutrals. A bad thing in the Harmony decks don't have many removal options. Yeah. The idea is that your engines are generating enough points that you don't need removal options, though. It's worked in the past. Arena about to become unplayable. Well, I mean, Fran is no longer one of the best leaders. It's like just Fran, right? I guess full list. I don't know, man. Arena already sucked. Can we just not worry about that? Bounty change is good. It stops the pattern. I've been saying for a while, I like Bounty. I like that it is getting a lot of value on bronze cards that you kind of have to build around. What I didn't like was how you could go unitless for multiple turns and just go like Slander, play a Witch Hunter, their whole board is Bounty, then just clear their whole board in one turn. And this solves that problem. I like the balancing by clunkiness rather than balancing by forcing value on cards. That's something I would like to see applied in more places. Mixed opinions on whether you can use Fran on Override and Justice to square a tail card. Yeah, it counts for Dana. That alone is an indicator, right? Cleaver ability. I mean, it's not technically a nerf, but it's a nerf. It's not a relevant nerf. Making something unplayable even more unplayable doesn't really affect the game. But it's things like this that make me wonder. They didn't kill Cleaver. In fact, you cannot kill something that is already dead. Was the text before. It didn't have to play a Syndicate special. This is the only good pull for him now. Yeah. The thing about Cleaver is that when you played it in those kinds of decks, you often drew the cards that you wanted to play. Like the important stuff like Shoop, like your Justice, those are often in your hand already. So probably like 8 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10, Cleaver was just playing a bronze special anyway. And in that context, it got buffed, right? Now when you play Dip in the Pontar off your Cleaver, you're getting 2 extra points. So in probably like 80% of games, this is a buff. That doesn't make it good. It's still a tutor leader, and tutor leaders still suck. And now you can't do like any of the sneaky things, like Cleaver out an A-Rush or Cleaver out a Scorch. Citron Lion nerf. Oh, finally. The one nerf to Cintron Lion after multiple buffs. Tutor leaders suck because generally you're gonna draw your good cards anyway. So you're gonna often just pull the bronze with your tutor leader. And your leader is often worth more than just a bronze. It increases your consistency without increasing your deck ceiling by all that much. But compare this with like Francesca, where when you draw your good cards, it's that much better. Dana kinda sucks. You need a very specific reason for a tutor leader to be good. Previously, Dana's reason to be good was that it got your Dryads out of removal range. But ever since they buffed the Dryad, that didn't really matter anymore. Is Cleaver Brook Congregation? That is a great question. I don't know. You're going to mulligan your Justice to be able to play your leader? Well, you don't, right? Because you just play something else. Depends what you're doing with Galenth. Again, you just need a reason to be playing the tutor leader. It's not just that you get to play a card in round 3. When I was playing Galenth earlier, Galenth guaranteed me my portal in round 1. And that was a good enough reason to play Galenth. In the past, you played Dana because Dana got your Dryads out of removal range with something no other leader could do. It had that extra bit of value. There was a reason to play it. But just finding cards isn't a reason to play a tutor leader. Well, the reason Fran is better than Dana doesn't really have anything to do with Call of the Forest. Even without that card, Fran would still be better than Dana. I agree strictly better is the wrong word to use. Or the wrong phrase to use. Use it with the poison crime. Gain 6 coins, poison a unit. That's kind of cool. It's like King of Beggars value, right? It overcaps your coins, but whatever. Because you get 2 from Cleaver and 4 from each Fizztech. What 2 factions does people to not bring to Challenger? It's a little too early for me to speculate on that. I don't know how good the Skellige cards are. I don't know how good the Monsters cards are. I don't know how big the nerfs to Syndicate were. This is the patch waiting room. New season arrived. It's kind of early for there to be a patch, right? Fall has 2 great tutor targets now. Yeah, in the worst case scenario, it got a little bit better, right? Tutoring the 4 provision card isn't the end of the world. It's not that expensive to just play a 1-of. Whereas before, you kind of just didn't even want to play it because it was so bad to play off Valve. DJ, order, gain a coin. This is such a huge nerf. Instead of it being carryover, it's just round 1 points. It seems so much worse than King of Beggars. You just compare them 1-to-1. Because you don't really want to be playing most crimes in round 3. Slander's alright. I guess Fizztech might be alright. But with King of Beggars, even the tribute reduction is relevant, because Morels is good, Graydon is good, Fence is good. If you want to play Adriano, Adriano's good. He got buffed last patch. No, not really. Even without Call of the Forest, I'd still probably call what happened to Fran a buff. Losing Lacerate for 2 provisions, it probably just forces you into the hybrid version. It's because of Call of the Forest that I think you can just play Harmony pretty safely. Like, the buff to water was ridiculous. This is so much bigger than it looks. Vampires are now 6. Yeah, that if vampires end up not working out, the Cathals change is pretty big too. There's a few big changes to monsters. The Barbergazi one's pretty huge. Is it really that hard to put a Drought on the board? Yeah, because it usually meant you were keeping a 4 provision card in round 3, and that's one more card that's not proccing Harmony. So if you go to a 3 or 4 card round, now all of your cards can be different card types. So you're getting that extra round of Harmony procs. You're not playing that 4 provision card. You don't have to pray to find that Dryad. You don't have to put as many Dryads in your deck either. It's just you play more card types, or a better spread of card types. Yeah, an hour or so sounds about right for the patch. Nerf, Swindle, and Eavesdrop just because of DJ. Eavesdrop probably, Swindle. I'm not gonna complain. Fuck Swindle. If I never see a Swindle again, I'll be happy. It's like the most miserable RNG. There's just no positive to it. At least with Create, you can play in a way to try to minimize the downside or maximize the upsides. There's no playing around Swindle RNG. It's just sometimes you get 4 points, sometimes you get 6 points. You're still gonna see play? I don't think so. I think it's bad enough. Especially with the Fizz Tech buff. Yeah, because I mean, this gets you the same amount of coins on average, and the poison's not irrelevant. Make you become popular, you can get an indication they're Glusty, pull it out with Calvé. Yeah, until they last play their Glusty, because you can't actually beat AQ in round 1. It's a cute idea. You may include 1 Swindle for Gang Tag. It's Blind Eyes, right? Or is it Crown Splitters? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I haven't thought about tags in a while. Crown Splitters. There's competition in Crown Splitters, right? There's other good cards. But maybe. Exchange, playing the DJ exchange? Yeah, so you can no longer stockpile charges. You get the coin immediately. Can Bounty-less Point Slam Guthrin be viable? I don't know why you wouldn't play Bounty. Just throw Bounty in the deck. I don't think I would play Bounty-less outside of King of Beggars. Bounty still that good after the nerf? Yeah, it just broke the one pattern, right? You just can't play unitless with Bounty anymore. Witch Hunter and Swindle still play for 8 to 10 value. Pretty easily. 7 to 10 value. Did you play Swindle and you have Fizz Tech? Well, because that's chat saying the Count Splitter tag. I could see that being reasonable, if you just don't want to play another Crown Splitter for whatever reason. It's a 4 provision option. I don't know what other 4 provision options there are for Crown Splitters. I'm using the Observer feature. Yeah, as soon as it's available, I'll have it enabled. Worse seems better for bounties since your move legends get killed easier. That's fair. Yeah, it is a much bigger deal to have access to removal on your leader now. Yeah. Orson's the best again, probably. Not even the best again. I think he might even be the best by a wider margin. For the bounty deck, at least. Like, there's still probably the Crime Himmelfort deck. I imagine that still works. But because of the difficulty of catching out bounties, that's an indirect buff to the leader that catches out bounties for you. Play Slander and kill it. Bloody Good Fun. Yeah, Bloody Good Fun. It's a really awkward card, though. Because it overspends, right? So if you have 6 coins and you just want to kill a 4, you have to spend all 6 coins. What's the point of linking provisions abilities if our leader's gonna be 15 or 16p? Because not every leader is, right? Like, Gurney is still low. Usurper is still low. Just opens up that space. Heart storming back and strong. That's what I mean, the crime Hemmelford deck. I, like, don't even consider that a Syndicate deck. It's, like, something totally different. When I think Syndicate, I think the main bounty stuff, playing either Guthrum, King of Beggars, or Horson. Because all those decks are kind of similar. They all play the same basic core. Or the Hemmelford deck is something totally different. Like, this change doesn't matter at all for the Hemmelford deck, because it didn't play Boat anyway. Whereas the bounty decks all played Flying Redinian. What'll happen to Arnulf when they decouple leaders? I guess Arnulf will just be a minion of whatever leader is summoning him. For it to win Challenger in 2 weeks? I'd believe it. Would not bet against it. Even though it got a point buff, a nerf by a point and a provision, or a buff by a point, but a nerf by a provision in a round 1 card, just feels so bad. It's still a thinning card, it still gets 5 coins. Though getting 5 coins if you're not playing Flying Redinian doesn't matter as much. Because before, like, a low-rolled Swindle plus Eavesdrop got you your boat. Storms on them Regis, you second DD last year to 10 points to get in chill. The Hemmelford Swarm deck wasn't really that much of a Swarm deck. It had a couple Swarm cards, but it split up the rounds in a way that makes beating it with just a Lacerate kind of hard. It was really an engine deck more than a Swarm deck. We're talking about Cull Talos? Yeah, one of the things we talked about much earlier, back when we were in Monsters. Hey Creed, thanks for the bits, man. What will we try out first? Vampires. Definitely vampires. This deck's cool. The slots in over the Swindle for a lot of decks. Makes Furco a lot more important, because you want to be able to find both copies of your Fist deck. I don't think you'll want to play any other poison cards to go with this. It'll just be the 2 Fist decks with Furco to tutor it. But back the first iteration of the Hemmelford Crimes deck, back before the hotfix, when Atsukov was playing it, it played 2 Fist decks. I felt pretty impressed by them most of the time. Now the extra point on them is... Not only is there an extra point on them, but the alternative of playing Swindle is a lot worse. Is Meave gonna overtake Foltest? I don't know, they can do pretty different things. Foltest is usually more mid-rangey, Meave is more engine-focused. Depends what the metagame looks like. Worst case scenario is 5 for 4. Yeah, but we're talking about Syndicate, right? Syndicate's got great bronzes. Poison anti-synergies with cut off blackies. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Only the first one, though, right? The second one, the poison will kill it before the lackeys go off. When's the patch? Probably in like 40 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer. Flying Redinian, power change from 4 to 3, provision cost from 10 to 9. This is a pretty big nerf. I could definitely still see some decks playing it, but it's a lot less good. Because it's not really a 1-point nerf for 1 provision gain. Because you often pulled this 2 or 3 times in a game. Buff against Muzzle. Yeah, nerf against Sweers. Igor the Hook, Insanity, Fee 5. Yeah, so Mr. Igor doesn't feel so good. He's... I would have liked to see them buff it a little bit while giving him a cooldown, because this looks kind of unplayable. Like, fix the part of him that's degenerate, which is being able to spawn a ton of copies of Townsfolk or Scribe or whatever with the cooldown, and then give him something in return. Give him like an extra point of power or two, or give him a couple provisions off of his cost. Give him something to compensate for this massacre. He could have still been a cool card, but now he's just kind of unplayable. I get why. They didn't want to like accidentally make the buff and make him too good in a more generic way. And they didn't want to have two metagames in a row that were dominated by Igor. But I'm pretty sure giving him like an extra point is fairly safe. Probably doesn't make him very good. Hook was given the hook. Yeah. Igor was so cool, but DJ and Townsfolk killed him. Yeah. Tried to dominate and Challenger. In the EGC tournaments, a lot of people were cutting Igor from their decks. They were just playing Bounty DJ. It's not even clear that Igor was the best way to play Syndicate. It was just really unfun to play against, so they had to do something about it. Again, I'm not saying don't touch Igor, but if you're giving him this cooldown 1, you can give him something back to compensate. Syndicate Leader with the most playable 3.2 update. Horson seems like a good choice. His leader enabling Bounty makes this drawback least relevant, and Bounty's still the strongest thing going on in Syndicate. Horson as well, as you can go back to the... not Horson. Hemmelford as well. You can go back to the old Hemmelford Crime Swarm deck. I'm sure that's still fine. Why does Caleb still have a cooldown? Oh, do you have an Executioner in play? If both stick, you can still go and machine gun stuff down, right? You just kill things in between giving them bounty. It's one of those things, like, it's not an urgent thing to change, so why change it? It already exists. How's bounty strong if it's only 1 max? Because it still plays for good value. When you play a Witch Hunter on a 4, you're still playing an 8-point bronze. The reason bounty was strong wasn't because you went unitless. That was just a side effect that made it even better. Don't have enough ammo, though. Depends on what your leader is. I think if you're playing King of Beggars, you can probably use your Caleb a couple times. I agree that it's not a huge change to remove the cooldown. It's just it already exists with cooldown. It's not an urgent thing to change back. No, it doesn't need a cooldown, but it also doesn't need to not have a cooldown. It doesn't change that much. Having a Syndicate of Zealots for 3 instead of 2? Hemmelford gets a lot better. All the cards that make Firesworn Zealots get a lot better. It's, Congregation is the literal nuts. It's a very different world. You have to redesign a lot of stuff. Maybe they'll buff Igor later. I'm sure they will. I would just like to see them give him a little love here, too. Even if he's still going to be bad. Like, even if they just give him, like, 1 point of power. If they just acknowledge that this is a huge nerf, and they want him to still be an interesting card. I would have liked to see that. Isn't that, like, every card that spawns Zealots? The leader, too. You're making Hemmelford a 9-point leader that gives you 2 coins. Plus whatever synergy from spawning the Zealots. Hemmelford's already debatably the best Syndicate leader right now. Would you cowboy with Igor now? Nothing. Igor just stays in the deck builder. I mean, card games in general are never really balanced. It's not really what the overall goal is. They just want to get to a base where they feel comfortable just printing expansions into the game. Keep shaking up the game every month. Stop the game from getting stale. And Swindle's dead. Sweet. Yeah, console players. Input with arrow keys on the keyboard is not right. You can play Gwent with the keyboard. Huh. Cool. Poker's balanced? Yeah, Rock Paper Scissors is balanced too. Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. There should be other videos you can watch over here and over here. Be sure to check out my Patreon in the video description, and I stream every day on Twitch from 1 AM to 7 AM, and you can find that link in the description below as well. Deck lists are in the description as always. Thanks for watching.